Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another Arknights reaction. Today we have something from Stürme im Herbst. It's been a while since I've done anything from this section of the game. It's not something that tends to get, covered too often, but this is actually a request from the executive producers that I'm just kind of treating like a normal video because I didn't have much else to go off with the last comment section, and there's two for this one. One is the title that I just figured out how to say Stürme. I'm not going to learn how to figure out how to say the first song's title, and the second song is going to be the theme Imperial version, and I was told a little bit of the context from Para about there being two different versions of that, one of which I've probably heard in a prior ambient synesthesia, so I'm not going to worry too much about that. I might recognize it, but like they said, it's going to be a different version, so it'll still be a fresh experience nonetheless, and I suppose without further ado, let's go! Okay. The march of this one, like the cadence of it, got plenty of weight. Started off with that like scraping, and it's like, okay, so immediately off kilter, a lot of tension. Ooh. I recognize that horn library. This is an Adam song. I've heard that exact horn library before. And I know who owns it. That just kind of ends intense too. It doesn't really like relent at the end. It just kind of forces you to deal with it all the way to the stop. Okay, so I know that this is a boss theme, obviously, but at the same time, I didn't really pay much attention to what Para told me about the character, even though they did try to explain that. I wanted to figure it out myself. The only context I got beyond that was that I probably have heard the second song before in a different variant, so I'm gonna try my best to figure out what's going on here. So like I was saying from the very beginning of this song, there was immediately tension. It was trying to push you into a corner like right out the gate. So I'm feeling like this character is probably somebody who's, able to do that in general. Some sort of like either a militant force with that cadence, that heavy rock solid rhythm that was behind it, but also somebody who's just in general intimidating is probably the better way to look about it. I know there's a lot of militant structure in the world of Arknights, obviously, but it doesn't necessarily feel like that. It feels more like somebody who has power and uses other things in order for that to happen to you. Think somebody who's in like a political power or a religious power potentially. I know that this isn't like Somniomancer, so I don't think that we've got Robot Jesus going on here. It definitely doesn't have that sort of vibe, but it also does definitely have the energy of, I am more important than you. I can make sure you know that. You better sit the fuck down before I make it your problem, and you better listen to me. And obviously I don't really love that feeling. It's very oppressive, but at the same time, that's the point of the song, I assume, is to make you feel that pressure and reflect in that moment of like, oh boy, this is somebody important. This is somebody who can kill me if they want to, and if I step even slightly out of line, they will. For whatever reason, they have that ability and they have that power, and they are not afraid to use it necessarily. And that's pretty common for these games, to have like a big bad that's like, oh, how did they get in power? How are they evil? Why are they evil? And why are they trying to kill me? And why do I have to deal with it? That's a lot of what happens happens in these games. And at the same time, it's always fun to hear the different ways to phrase that specific energy. There are so many different types of character and so many different ways to go about that oppressive factor. And for this song, it was large, it was very heavy in the brass, it had a lot of like, I think that was a harpsichord underneath everything, so like that kind of leans towards the upper class, a little bit more like proper, somebody who's like earned the status, you know. There's definitely parts of the song that are making me go, okay, yeah, they've climbed their way up to whatever status they have, and now it almost feels like they've basically gone insane and are trying some sort of like weird neo-dictator sort of route. And now it's your problem, you have to deal with it, and that's always fun, isn't it? So that's kind of my overall thoughts just going into it. I mean, it is a boss theme, so I'm not entirely sure if this is like the start of or the active boss like moment, like the fight itself, or if it's more like an announcing sort of thing, like when you meet the character and they're just trying to give you the overview of what their whole deal is. It kind of fits either way though, because battle themes are usually pretty intense like this one is, but also if they want that character to be that intimidating, they could easily start here. So I don't know if the theme that's coming next is going to be more oppressive or if it's going to be something a little bit less aggressive. I have really no clue. So I guess I better listen to that song and figure out what exactly is going to happen. So let's go. Okay. Starting on higher tension. Ooh. Interesting choice to take away everything else and then just come in with that alone for a second. Like softens it a little bit. So yeah, I could definitely hear this being like the fight as well. Maybe it's like a phase 2 sort of situation. It's more frantic for sure, so, you know, tension's higher, stakes higher. I feel like those big, like, explosive hits, too. Very regal. Huge pride going on. And a gigantic full resolute chord for the very end. So I assume you won. For the record, I did look at who wrote the songs between the recordings, and it was Adam, so I was correct there. I legitimately just recognized his trumpets and his general horn section. He uses those a lot, and I don't really hear that library from any other composer that I've heard on this game, so whenever I hear that, that's pretty much an immediate, like, assumption for me that this is an Adam track, and it's not the only hint I have, but definitely for these ones, it was the biggest hint I had. I was like, man, there's those horns. I'm pretty sure it's the same set that he used for Wolfmaster. Like, he's used them a few times, and I've just kind of assigned that tone of the horn section to him. I'm sure there's plenty of other people out there using them, but at the same time, not in this game specifically. So it's just one of those little clues that I get. But as far as the song itself goes, this one definitely felt like an evolution of the other one, but it changed the energy. It felt felt a lot more prideful, and it felt more like you were kind of reaching the end of something. And by the end of the song, it definitely did hit that resolution. So I'm like, okay, there we are. You know, you get that final moment where you're just like, ah, yes, we are done. The answers are here. We're finished with whatever this fight was. And, you know, all things are relatively well and good. The entire song had that tension on there, and it kept building up to these giant explosive hits. And I'm like, okay, cool. That's a great hint too. So that feels very Final Battle to me. Like every single clash is one of those hits, like giant, huge swings that they're putting all their final effort into, giant casts of whatever magic or whatever the hell's going on, huge actual cannons, whatever it may be. It's just, you know, the big last hits you have. It's supposed to represent that, these big all-in sort of attacks that need that much power and need to resolve in the music somehow. So that's what I'm getting there. And the rest of the song, like I said, was just kind of playing with some of the tension from that first song that we heard, but shifting it, I suppose, to something that felt a little bit more like there was a hope on the back end. The chords were not nearly as tense. The general energy shifted from, oh shit, to, I think I've got this. I just like the evolution of the last one to this one. I'm not even fully sure if it is a phase 1 and 2, but I definitely feel that based on how the song itself is structured compared to the first one. The first one had that relentless sort of energy all the way through, right up to the end. But then this one started with some of that tension and immediately started to loosen it, like throughout the song. And as we got further and further in, it felt more and more like you were, you know, coming out on top. And at the very end, hitting that final resolution on the chord, you're just like, ah, big final chord, big answers. We are done here. I have won. It's more triumphant. It just has that final bookend to it. So it's definitely a different sound, but also I think I do recognize the chord progression in here, just not like 1-to-1. It definitely, like, what I'm remembering is something different. So I probably am recalling whatever variant version I have heard before, probably through the Synesthesia concert. So it's like I recognize it vaguely, but also not really. Like, it's definitely different. I can tell that much. And like I assume a variant would be, it's probably just different enough that my brain is trying to make that connection, but it's like vague. I feel like I've heard this somewhere before. It's probably from that concert, but maybe I've heard it somewhere else too. It's hard to tell sometimes with these games. A lot of them like to pull motifs from different stuff. I know I've heard stuff from this part of the game before, so it's possible I've just heard a little chunk of this theme in there somewhere, just to, you know, throw it in there. It's like a little teaser for a different part of the story. Anything is possible, but I always love hearing boss themes because of the different ways to handle how that perception of the boss is. Like I said, a lot of them are pretty samey. It's just like, oh, giant person in power for some reason, whatever reason it may be, and they are a threat, and I have to take care of that. Now it's my problem, main character issues. But hearing specifically how the composers personify that character is always just a little bit different, be it that they're huge in, you know, some sort of religious or political power and they're using that against you, or if it's just straight up a gigantic rogue who's just gonna fucking beat the shit out of you. There's two completely different sides of the same coin, and it's always interesting to hear how composers handle those and make their personalities known. I love that the most out of hearing things like boss and character themes, just because all of them are a little bit different and all of them are so intentional with how they handle things and what they use, what instruments they choose, much like that harpsichord thing from the first one. That immediately made me think, okay, so it's somebody who's, you know, proper. It's not somebody who is like a rogue, you know, it's somebody who is in the upper class or upper echelon of some sort, and that reflects itself through the instruments. So the biggest thing to take away from this one is if you were writing a song for a character or a boss, use those instruments to reflect that. Use the stuff that people would hear as kind of tropey to your advantage, because it's a trope for a reason. It's a stereotype for a reason. And most of the time, if you want to make sure something is very clear to people, use the common denominator. You know, it's not a bad thing. It's not a crutch and it's not lazy. It's basically just utilizing the set standard that a bunch of other people have been using forever and is now synonymous with that character type. So use it. You know, it's not a bad thing to do so. But I think I've yapped about this one enough, so thank you all so very much for watching. If you enjoyed this and you want me to get to another Arknights song, by all means, drop in the comments below and I will do my best as always. And thank you very much, Para, for putting this into the executive producer queue that I then chose to not use in the executive producer style. So So, you know, happy for you, free video, I guess. And if you want to guarantee something out of me like that, you can always go to my Patreon or my YouTube memberships, where there's a tier that will force me to listen to whatever you want. Doesn't matter who it's by, what it's from, if it's good or bad, none of that matters. That's why it's a guarantee. But if you don't want to do any of that and you just want to follow me and support me for more stuff coming in the future, you know how to do all that. And I will see all of you in the next video. Goodbye!